A year ago today, life looked completely different here. There have been highs, a couple of lows, and setbacks that we just never saw coming, to the point that we started to question, do we even want to continue building this shipping container home anymore? Today, we are retracing our steps over the last 12 months and sharing with you what happens to this place now, but not here. It is minus 18 degrees today, so let's head to the lake and warm up.
Okay, so we just took in the most beautiful sunset
It was unbelievable.
I've ever seen in such a long time.
The lake is starting to freeze, so the sunset hitting the ice, it was just unbelievable. So
Yeah.
we ended up spending the afternoon doing that and not recording this video, but
Here we are now. So happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah.
Hope you all had a great holiday break. I know we sure did. It was really nice taking some time to just relax and unwind and reflect. Your family was here, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
it was the first time that we haven't been like busy doing a project and like filming and like actually putting the camera down for a little bit and spending time with family. It was really needed. I feel so recharged and just like ready to take on the new year. I don't know, I'm excited.
Yeah, and speaking of the new year, we always find it really fun to kind of go back through the year before and look at all the things that we've accomplished, all the successes, all the setbacks,
Yeah.
and just really help reframe where we are today, because with everything going on, it's far too often we get too hard on ourselves that we're not
Yeah.
progressing fast enough or things are going wrong. So
Well, it's kind of nuts to think that this time last year, it was just shipping containers on the land. Like, we didn't have the stairwell tower, we didn't have the addition, we didn't have any of that where we are now. And yes, it's a year and we wish that we were further along, but I'm still incredibly proud of everything that we were able to accomplish.
well, if you
these
think
last few
about
months.
it, like it was January of last year that we got electricity to the land. So I
Yeah.
still remember that night that the power came on. It was such a long day. Huge shout out to Adam for sticking it out with us and
Yeah.
putting in the extra hours that day and getting the light bulbs pumping, you know?
Yeah, it was really emotional just because I felt like we lived in that battery building for like months. All of the fine tuning to get all the cables just right and all the nuts and bolts, but we did it.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, so we got the power up and going in January, but then it wasn't until February that we actually finished that building. Because not only is it our power building with our battery bank in it,
It's like our pump house too. for a
yeah,
while.
like we call it kind of like the heart of the
Yeah.
property, because whether it's water or electricity, it flows through the veins underground that we installed.
And funny enough too, it actually is in the center of the property.
Yeah, it is. It's perfectly located, like
Yeah.
total fluke. We were just like, we're just gonna put it here because it's easy for the truck to drop the container off.
Yeah, but it actually worked out.
Yeah, but February, we spent so long in there because we had to finish up the bank all around the the batteries. And then-
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a tricky thing because what we didn't realize, we were like, okay, we have power, everything is totally great now, but we couldn't bring water out of the well until we had heat in that building. And then we realized, okay, well, we need to put in-floor heat, but in order to have in-floor heat, we need to have tile. This is what ends up happening with us, as you guys know. One little project that we have, like as an idea, ends up sort of like snowballing into this like crazy big project, but it ends up always working out in the end. And that was what that project was totally. We laid the in-floor heat, remember, laughing on the floor.
It was such a mess.
Schnooter.
I remember actually kind of feeling a little bit hopeless though when the tile
Yeah.
wasn't going, because we had the pressure of trying to get that whole floor done before Nick came the next day to install the filter system.
It was so down to the wire, even for us, but we got it done. We got the filtration system in, and then we finally had running water, which was so beyond exciting. The first thing that we did was we filled the hot tub that we were finally able to use. So ridiculous. We invited all of our friends and family over, and we did like a spa day, and it was a cool way to be able to take a moment and just kind of relish in all of the success that we had had up to that point. Like we hadn't really been able to invite friends and family over.
Yeah, but it was down to the wire as well.
Yeah.
Like we were working until almost midnight that night as well, making sure that everything was ready for the next day.
Yeah,
We're
that's
very
true.
last minute if you haven't figured this out yet.
But it's because we're big dreamers. Like we are always up to something. We've always got a project like cooking on the back burner, and that's kind of why I'm so excited for the future and I'm feeling so recharged, even though this year I do want to prioritize downtime and relaxation. I know we're going to get up to stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, for instance, you were saying like while we were doing all that with the water, we were building the addition for the house.
Yeah.
Coordinating all of that down at a shop like 2 hours away from the land.
Yeah.
So we went down to see how construction on that was going, which was a really cool experience to go and see the sections of the house, something we had just been like visualizing on paper for so long.
Yeah, we made the decision kind of earlier in the fall that with winter, it wasn't going to be realistic to build the addition and the upstairs and the roof and all of that outside in the elements. So putting it in this facility was definitely a good decision. But going down to visit it and to see the progress, we stayed in this like timber frame cabin that is almost identical to this place and completely fell in love.
Like, couldn't unsee it. Ooh, just got so excited.
Tassels are going everywhere.
It was just like really warm and cozy, and it was also warm, which was a nice change of pace for us because the dome does get cold in the winters. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, January and like a lot of February, it's just it gets really cold, and staying in that cabin, it lit a fire in us. Like we're still excited obviously for the shipping container home, but I don't know, there was just something about the beams and something about it all that we fell in love.
do you think that like that feeling that we had from staying there kind of led to the same feeling we had when we came and toured here?
Absolutely. If I hadn't stayed in that cabin that we did, I wouldn't have had like the confidence to instantly see this place and know that it was everything that I wanted.
See, for me, it was the polar vortex that came in March. That that polar vortex, literally, it sealed the deal. We had to be out of the dome.
We gotta go.
I think it's also just like the unpredictability of winter. So for instance, like middle of March, things were starting to warm up. We had done all the snow removal, had all the driveways nice and wide so that the crane and the trucks could get in to lift the container pieces or the house pieces into place. Literally the night before they got there, a snowstorm came in.
That was brutal. We had to shovel by hand the entire roof because obviously that was where the upstairs was gonna go. That was so much work. And snow blowing that whole driveway, wow, yeah, that was a lot of work. But we put our heads down, we got it done. It did work out in the end. And seeing those pieces of the addition rolling down the driveway, that was when it was so exciting.
It was when the tower roof went on. It was one take, so seamlessly it went into place. And it was just kind of the cap on it all. Mm-hmm. And I felt like we were turning a page from all the setbacks of the stairs.
Well, sort of. Because just as we got the addition on, the tower was in place, we were on cloud 9, we were starting on the roof, and a big piece of wood fell off of scaffolding and landed on the top of Todd's foot.
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, it hit his metatarsal bone, or remember, because Met guards.
Yeah, so like we had steel-toed boots, but we didn't know that there's this Met guard that you can put in, and it's supposed to stop those impacts on the top of your foot.
He was like down off his feet for almost 2 weeks. That really sucked.
Oh, it was awful.
But I mean, it was kind of nice at the same time. We were able to take a step back while you rested, really appreciate, wow, we did this. It's in place. It was exciting. And then, of course, we got started on the roof. We got started cladding it in. The walls went up, the insulation. Like it was an exciting time.
Do you know what we're missing from all of this?
What?
I feel like we need a tea. Plus my throat's getting a little scratchy.
Want to go make one?
Sure. Instead of a tea, do you want to have a beam?
Yeah, we probably should, hey?
Yeah.
That's the last thing we need, caffeine. We need all of this good stuff. Huge shout out, by the way, to Beam for sponsoring a portion of this week's episode. We have been in a major rut since the holidays. We've been staying up way too late, getting up too late. Our sleep cycles are just completely thrown off.
It's a mess.
This little packet here not only tastes amazing, but is loaded with ingredients that not only help you fall asleep, but help you stay asleep. Things like melatonin and L-theanine, and it also tastes amazing. Now that we're in the new year, it is the perfect time to start taking on new routines, and getting a good night's sleep is the bedrock of all of that. When you have Beam, you wake up the next day and you don't feel groggy, you don't feel tired, you just feel totally rested. If you click the link in the description box down below and use our code Tyler and Todd, you'll get up to 40% off your first order. So make sure you click that link and use the code Tyler and Todd. You ready?
I'm ready.
Back to the couch.
Okay.
Cheers, good idea.
Thanks, I'm full of those.
All right, where were we?
Oh, where were we? So then that brought us into May, which was still a busy time with the house, but we had your health scare, which kind of made us take a step back from everything.
We did a whole video on it, so we won't dive too much into it, but long story short, my grandfather, he had colorectal cancer, and my mom had a health scare where she found precancerous polyps, and I had been having symptoms of that, and I needed to get the polyps removed, and thankfully mine were not precancerous, but it really put things kind of into perspective of what do we want? Where are we going? What is all of this? Because had it have been bad news, I don't really know what I would have done with that information. I didn't feel like I was in a really great mental headspace, to be honest. And to take a step back from all of that and I guess recalibrate what I wanted it was really important, and I'm glad I did it. I feel like I'm in a better place now.
Yeah, so we did take some time off while we were going through all of that, just to, like Ty said, get back to what brought us joy. So we spent a lot of time in the gardens and taking the boys for walks. And
remember that little greenhouse we built?
Oh yeah, for all the little seeds, seedlings. That was a cool project.
Yeah.
But I still remember how cool it was when we came back from your colonoscopy and they had put the stairs in, and it was the first time in nearly a year that we were able to go from the lower containers to the upper containers without a ladder.
And then the windows, that was unbelievable too.
Stressful. I couldn't, so the windows are massive.
That was gross.
Yeah, they're 6x6 windows, like 6 feet by 6 feet. So they're really heavy. And I was just sick to my stomach, because if one of those someone loses their grip or it just doesn't sit right and it goes crashing down, one, someone could get seriously injured. And two, it was like a 6-month wait to have those windows.
That was the biggest fear. If someone gets hurt, hey.
We can deal with that.
We can deal with that, but we are not waiting for these windows. Just as the last one went in though, it was not the right size. So we did have to reframe that opening, but no worries. We ended up getting it in place, and then all the windows were done. It looked so good.
Oh, the views.
It was breathtaking.
Oh. So one thing that I think people don't quite understand about the build with the shipping container house is we have plans for it. It's all engineered, but because it's never been done and it's so unique, there's a lot of getting to a milestone and then stopping while we wait for material, because we can't quite know what the measurements are going to be until it's built.
Or what the permitting people will say. There's just so many little different steps along the way that it's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, so at this point, we were waiting for material, and we decided, you know what, let's just live life and do the things that bring us joy. So we got to work on doing some more gardens around the land, and we planted the most epic food garden out front of the solar panels, which is the perfect spot because it gets sun all day long.
We planted so many great things. We had potatoes, broccoli, squash. There was so much.
A lot. So it was really fun just getting back to those basic things and the stuff that really brought us joy when we first started the land project.
Yeah, especially because everything that we had planted this year was from seed. So all of the stuff that we planted in that greenhouse that was what we put in the garden, which was really cool. It felt really rewarding.
It added an extra layer to the garden, I felt. So once we saw the roofing material, because that was the stuff we were waiting for at this point,
Yeah.
once it came, we were able to get going with putting the roof on, and while that was happening, we were able to start on the rooftop deck, which was really cool because we got to help with cutting the joists for it
Yeah.
and, you know, just being more hands on the tools, which was something we were kind of missing.
It was a lot of work, but it was still fun. And to be able to stand now out on that deck and be like, we built this, it's a cool feeling.
Yeah. So then once that was done, we were back to a waiting position. So we decided to start feeding that travel bug we have a little bit more. And we went to visit our niece and nephew in Ottawa, which was...
It was a lot of fun.
It was really fun. And it was the first time that we got to go see them since they had moved to where they are now.
Yeah, I think that was the first trip we had been on in like a few years for sure.
It was a while.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of time to travel once we kind of get things a little more finished
I
and
know.
along the way. But when we got back, we got to work on researching the most energy efficient products for the inside because it was time to really start planning out the electrical, where we
Yeah.
wanted plugs, switches, lights, all these different decisions had to be made.
I'm so glad we took the time to do that.
Yeah.
In the research of figuring out like the most energy efficient products and all of that, we actually need to order those in because it's often a really long wait time and we had nowhere to store it. So I went to an equipment auction and I was able to get a shipping container, but not just any shipping container. This one had 5 doors. So it had 4 doors all the way on the side and then one end opened.
It was the best decision
Yeah.
ever because it's nice. We have it broken into different sections. So like one is the holiday stuff and one
Yeah.
is like long-term storage and then the rest of it is all building material. It was the first time since starting the land project that we were able to have some sort of idea of where stuff was and get it.
Some sort.
Yeah. And while we were working on this storage, we were also working on a secret project.
Yeah, we had this idea to completely do the pool build all in one video. That did not happen. So we lived in denial for a few months while we tried to finish it, and then
Couldn't do
we
it.
couldn't do it. But it was a secret in August at that point. But that's when it happened in our timeline. But at that point, we were dealing with a whole separate issue. It was really, really warm. It was a hot August, and tensions were getting really, really high, and
Things boiled over.
things boiled over. Siding went up when it shouldn't have went up, and it didn't go up correctly, and we needed to get it fixed. Warranty was not going to be valid unless it was done correctly, and Todd and I made the decision at that point. We needed to take the contract back. We needed to...
There were a couple frustrations that had led
Yeah.
to this, but the siding was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And
Yeah.
we decided that even if it takes longer to finish the container house, us doing it, it was better that it was done right with a positive attitude
Yeah.
than put together rushed with a negative attitude.
I feel really happy that we made the decision that we did, even though it's still not done. It's still going to take long. As time dragged on, once we got into October, we realized we are not going to be living in this place. And we made a decision that I am so grateful that we did, is we started putting out feelers of, are we going to rent a place? Are we going to buy another place? Like, what's the situation? Because like, we're not going to be living in the dome again. And just as we did that, Charlie, we were working on the siding, and Charlie, our dog, started limping, and we were like, what is going on? We brought him to the vet, and the vet was like, oh yeah, like he tore his CCL, which is like we did a whole video on it.
It's like an ACL in your knee.
Yeah.
And it was just like a fluke. Like he had breakfast and was fine, laid down for a nap and woke up and it was torn.
And his meniscus was also gone. And anyway, he would need this surgery that required 6 weeks of complete bed rest. Like, he couldn't move. And if you know what golden retrievers are about, that's just not an option for them. And at this point, we had already been looking at places. We found this place. It was just like the timing couldn't have been more perfect. But then we were also coming out with our podcast that comes out every Wednesdays. And there was like this this energy, this excitement that we were going through.
Things were changing.
Things were changing, yeah.
We were, instead of just only seeing the land and like our whole life had become consumed by the construction of this house and this property, and we had lost sight of so many things that bring us joy. We were just, I look back and like October was a really cool month because there was so much happening, so much excitement, so much refreshment I felt into our life. So
yeah, we were able to pick away at some projects that didn't require like the full inspection. So we got 90% of our plumbing done. My parents came over from Newfoundland, and
that was awesome.
That was awesome that they were able to come. We did all of the underground wiring. We pulled all of that ourselves.
We planted an orchard.
Oh yeah. Like we were
Just
busy.
A casual orchard, you know?
That was so beautiful though. And we got to spend the day with Mel, and we spread all those wood chips. Things were good. And then Charlie finally had his surgery after waiting for a bit. And then
we realized like just how perfect the timing was, because within days of getting back and him struggling at the dome to get up the stairs and the ground's not even there for him to use the bathroom, we got possession of this place, which was just in the nick of time because
we were on a high at that point. Like, obviously we had a lot to do with Charlie recovering and helping him with that, but we just wanted to settle in here.
It was really important to me to have that time to just settle into here.
But of course, as soon as we move in, the propane stove didn't work.
That thing was filled with hornets.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
The cabin flooded. Like it was just like all of these like setbacks, but that's what we were talking about earlier about silver linings. We were like, we're warm. Like life is so good. And then we got to work on converting over our guest room. Like we want to invite people here. That's the big thing that's been missing about living on the land is we don't have neighbors. We could scream in the middle of the woods and no one would hear us. There's literally no one around. It's in the middle of the woods.
We also don't have the ability to host people and stay the night, which is also adds to the loneliness because there was only one bed there. So here we wanted the room to be comfortable so that people would feel encouraged to come back.
And it turned out so beautiful. I absolutely love it. And then really we just settled in. We had nights with Todd's family. My family came for Christmas. We decorated. We really just wind down our year, and we're still kind of in that headspace. Like, I am not in a hurry to run out and do a bunch of projects. Like, yeah.
We'll see how time goes.
What I mean by that is like, I want to do the projects that you want to do, that I want to do. I don't want to constantly feel like we're stressed out because there's this complicated engineering problem. That is a nightmare.
Well, and also the stuff that we've been doing over the last 3 years, the trenches, the foundations, the everything.
The infrastructure of it all. Like, it's complicated. In 2024, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, sacrifice my happiness. Life is so short. It's fleeting, and I don't want to do that.
And I guess that kind of brings us to where are we going in 2024? And basically, we're going to continue working on both projects here, making this more ours, but also finishing the land, but at a pace that feels more comfortable because we're not doing projects out of necessity. We're doing them because they're back to bringing us joy.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. The most common question that we got at the latter half of the year was, you're giving up on the container home. Like, I watched you all this time living off grid and you're giving up and all of that. And I want to be really clear. We're not giving up. Like, we're going to continue building the container home. It is going to be absolutely stunning when it's finished and we have the choice. Do we want to move into there or do we want to stay here? That is a choice that we can make at that point. I think people need to understand you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have the answer of where you're going to be at this point next year, because if we've learned anything over the last year, we are nowhere near where we thought we were going to be. That's okay. You don't have to have all the answers.
I think that's the thing. Like, it's okay to realize you're in over your head. We are or were
Yeah.
at the land, and we couldn't see it until we left. And now that we
It's
have
so clear now.
it, like, we're not quite there yet, but we're just about like able to see the whole vision and like how it's going to come together. But I really don't think we'd be seeing it this way if we were still there.
No, I don't think so either. And I'm really excited for what's next and everything that's to come. And I hope you are too. We are going to be posting new videos every Sunday. I hope that you'll be there. We post a podcast, which is kind of more this format where we just sit on the couch and talk. That comes out every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. I had to think. I always want to say 5 p.m., but it comes out Wednesday at 9 a.m.
Yeah, so we are gonna go finish these teas and snuggle in with the boys and get a good night's sleep with all this warmth in here. And we will see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.